Well, the Rockies are absolutely limping their way into the finish line right now. They still are 3 wins away from avoiding history. And right now, those 3 wins feel pretty elusive. What we're seeing from the Rockies recently, a foreshadow of what we're going to see in 2026, is another bad year loading up for the Colorado Rockies. We'll talk about that and more coming up next on the DNVR Rockies podcast presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code DNVR365. Place a bet for $5. You get $150 back in bonus bets. I am willing myself to have energy today because your 2025 Colorado Rockies have lost 11 out of their last 13 and are limping. They are skidding their way into the final 20-something games of this regular season. And man, it's been a brutal watch recently. Welcome into the show.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
It's good to be back.
To be back on a Friday. That is the energy we're gaining, is that the fact that it's Friday.
Yes.
The NFL season starts fully
We had
tonight.
a day off yesterday, too.
The Rockies had a day off, so we got to cleanse ourselves of watching the Rockies for a day. And Wednesday's loss was one of the top, like as Scott says in the chat, we were back to the anger stage at the stage of acceptance. And that's exactly where I was on Wednesday night. It was a top 5 crash out for me this season, just because we are excited to beat this record. And we have something that we'll kind of unveil once it happens. And that's getting me more excited for them to just win this 3 games to get us to this promised land of not being the worst team in MLB history. And I don't want that to go to waste. And the 3 wins, just getting 3 more wins feels like a chore. It feels like taking the trash out. Like, I know recycle day is coming for me next week at my new house. And I know that there's 75 boxes in my garage and it's just hanging over me that I'm going to have to go out there and cut all these boxes. And that's what these Rockies wins. And then they could beat the Padres tonight and I'll be like, we may sweep the Padres and they may do it this weekend.
I know.
Like, it's such a roller coaster, man. But the Wednesday game was a full crash out because I wasn't really paying attention. Saw it was 4-0. I was playing softball actually, and saw it was 4-0. Got in the car, drove around, did some things, then started to see them come back, and was like, exciting. They're coming back, and then they fully took the lead and did not even record an out before giving up said lead. And
brutal.
The games like that just send me over the edge. Like, if they go out, like if you replay the Blue Jays series again, where they just lose every game 15-1, and you got Austin Nola pitching in the 9th, and guys are hitting dingers everywhere. It's like, whatever, that happens. But
you're just getting crushed.
Games like that, when you're trying to win 3 more games, and you're just trying to put something together, where it felt like we had, 2 or 3 shows ago, we had so much momentum, and so much as we talk about everything on this Rockies pod is on a Rockies scale. We had so much momentum Rockies-wise going into a couple of series, and we were at least competitive in the games we were losing. And then the Giants come to town, and I believe they set a record for the most home runs hit in a 3-game series in San Francisco Giants history. So that's fun, giving up dingers left and right. The Cubs came in here and did that same thing. But hopefully an off day, they washed off all the bad news bears. And then I think Freeland's starting tonight.
He is starting tonight.
So they said, get your ass back out there. You're not getting 4 days off.
I love that.
And that was an electric
because he pitched,
moment.
8 pitches?
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll talk about the benches clearing brawl later in the show, because we haven't had a show since that happened. And that was arguably one of the most electric parts of this entire season. But I'm pulling up our good friend of the pod, Scott, his history tracker. The Rockies need 2 wins to tie history, 3 wins to avoid history, and they have 23 games left to play. So the Rockies need to effectively, go 3 and 20 over their next 23 games to avoid that record. But like Mr. Purple says in the chat, I felt like that was easy. Like they were going to stumble into that this last week, and here we are feeling like they're still going to do it. Let's be completely real. Like they're still going to avoid that record. But I'm like, where do those wins come from? I mean, you play the Padres starting today. Then you go into LA, you play the Dodgers, and we get to see Shohei Ohtani pitching again against the Rockies. So maybe the Rockies get a win there. Then you go back and you play the Padres again before going and playing the Marlins. It's like, okay, so maybe your next win might be against the Marlins. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if their next win isn't until that Marlins series. So maybe we're
Marlins sweep to get the record.
That would be
and go 6-0 against the Marlins this year. Their only 2 sweeps would be cinema.
After losing, what would that be? That's 3 straight series, getting swept 3 series in a row against the Dodgers, Padres, and then Padres again. That would be impossible, though, because the Rockies don't lose more than 8 games in a row. We all know that. That's the cardinal rule of 2025. The Rockies never lose more than 8 games in a row. But I wanted to ask the question, are we overreacting? Because we talk all the time about, any season, even on good teams, the Nuggets, for example. I remember doing a lot of our Denver sports podcast last year shows, and they were very Nuggets focused towards the end of Nuggets season. And I remember, there were some TDSPs that I would do talking about the Nuggets where we were like on top of the world. This team is unbeatable. And then a week later, it was like, is this team even going to make the playoffs? So I understand there's a roller coaster that the season goes up and down, even for bad teams. But given the growth that we had seen at the beginning of the second half and how this team has been playing over their last 13 games, even the wins that they've been getting, I'm starting to get a little nervous of, is this a foreshadow into the type of baseball we're going to see in 2026? Because we all thought, hey, this team is playing good. This team is playing kind of fun for our standards again. Maybe this is going to signal for better days in 2026. Well, now the young guys have kind of stopped playing well. Bernabel isn't the next Trevor Story. Pitching staff is just atrocious, both bullpen and starters. Like, I don't know what to say about this team.
Yeah, I do. I think we're overreacting a little bit, but not to an extent like you would with a Nuggets or an Avs or even a Broncos now, where you kind of anticipate the teams being good. I feel like, we do 2 shows a week for the entire season, and it's September now. So we've been doing this since, February, March, and we have been, I think we've been fair. But we've been on the positive side of most things, even in literally the worst season of all time.
Sure.
And so I feel like we've been positive, and so that positivity has bought us a little overreaction time without calling it overreaction.
Are you calling us spoiled? Is that what you're saying? Have we been spoiled?
We've been a little overly positive, which is kind of like, it's not fun to go sit in here and talk about all the losses and how bad they lose, and like we got to find different angles. But I think us overreacting, anybody else that pays attention to the Rockies and wants to freak out, that's an overreact. But for us who talk about them twice a week, we have our great community that talks about them twice a week and on Twitter all the time. Like, we get to overreact. We're allowed to overreact in the moment because we still treat every single one of these wins like a Super Bowl. And when something happens, like the Giants game to just cap off basically a 10-game stretch of shit, and there's no better way to put it, is where it just, I popped my top. I just lost it.
You were texting me. You were so mad.
I was just
the other day.
Dejected because I just want these 3 wins to happen because we have other things and I'm excited. But I also just want them to look competent the rest of the year so that we're not going into 2026 thinking that it needs to be, it doesn't need to be a semi-rebuild, but we need to see good things from guys for the rest of this month. And the toughest part about that is we are getting some decent individual performances night over night, offensively especially from some guys. It's just not translating to team wins, which in a season where you're middling, you're maybe a 500 team and you've seen good things, and then your team just doesn't win some close games or some weird things happen, fine. But they're losing so many games that when you have a chance to win one and you still can't do it, it just brings you down.
Yeah, I think this whole little, it's not a losing streak, but this losing stretch that the Rockies have been on is kind of a combination of 2 things. I think one part of this is the pitching. Obviously, we know starting pitching's terrible. We can expect that every single night, that starting pitching, unless Tanner Gordon's out there on the mound, it's going to be kind of rough. The bullpen has been pretty good up until this last month or so, and it's been rough out there in the bullpen. You don't have Vodnik because he's injured. You obviously don't have Wait, is Vodnik injured?
I think Vodnik's okay.
Vodnik's fine. Halversen's the one. Agnos is the other guy. You don't have Halverson. You don't have Agnos. So, you lost Jake Bird to a trade. So your bullpen's just kind of in a weird middle spot right now, too, with some injuries and also just a new identity. So the combination of bad pitching, which the Rockies have entirely, and also I do think there's part of this is I think the league is starting to figure out some of these young guys. A guy comes up from AAA or AA and makes his major league debut. There's not a lot of film on Kyle Karros or Warming Bernabel when a pitcher's going out there and preparing for his game plan. So you're kind of just running blind into those at-bats. And I think now we're starting to see, okay, opposing teams can look at trends from the Warming Bernabels, the Kyle Karros, the Ryan Ritters, to be able to see this is how this guy's at-bats have gone. We've seen a big enough sample size to be able to know how to attack and approach these at-bats. And so that's why I'm like a little nervous that this is foreshadowing another down year next year, whatever that looks like, is because I want to keep seeing the growth. I want to keep seeing the growth out of the young guys. And I feel like just off the cuff here that we're starting to see the league catching back up as opposed to our guys continuing to grow at the pace that they were.
Yeah. And we were excited. We've had 13, 14 major league debuts this year for the Rockies and a lot of fun call-ups, and it's been a good time. But this is now, we got the call-up of Romo, who's already been up for September, and there's not really a guy that's, maybe we have a spot start from a Gabriel Hughes or something in the next couple of weeks where we're like, can get excited again, like the McCade Brown one. But this is the time this last month for any of the 13, 14 guys that play consistently in the field, catching, outfield, whatever position they're playing, to really solidify themselves as somebody that sticks around for 2026. Because especially if there's a change at GM, like right now, not that any of these guys should feel really comfortable in their jobs. Maybe, the Tovar should, and Doyle with how his second half has gone should.
Goodman.
And Hunter Goodman, of course. But a lot of these other guys are still in wait and see mode on where their spot is in this roster. And this month, whether it's a small sample size or not, and we're getting bigger ones from Bernabel, who's already been up, Karros has now been up a couple weeks, like those kind of guys, this last month is their chance to show, not necessarily Bill Schmidt, because he shouldn't matter in the offseason on deciding whether they play or not, but showing Warren Schaefer if he ends up becoming the full-time manager or they hire somebody else. But they're going to come in and look at this roster, and any of the players that play well this last month and kind of put together a decent campaign of an August, September for most of these guys, will be able to say, all right, we don't necessarily need that position going into 2026. But for guys like Karros, Bernabel, and I'm not singling these guys out, like they've been good enough, I believe, to warrant a potential starting spot in 26. Any of these guys that still are kind of not necessarily MLB players and not necessarily AAA players, those tweeners, it can be very easy for a new GM and new front office ownership, whatever, not ownership, I wish, but new front office to come in and say, let's send those guys back down to AAA and find a veteran that can start at third base or start at second base. And that's what I don't want to happen from a standpoint of, I want these guys to play well enough to where that's not an issue. But if they don't, I don't want to go into another season of having the Kyle Farmers and the Nick Martinis and the Jacob Stallings and all of those guys starting games for us in a year that we know is not going to be good next year. But if we're starting next year with a bunch of these same guys and feeling good about where their September led and their MLB level play going into spring training, I'll feel better about the start of next year.
Yeah, spring training is going to be really interesting. And it is anytime you have a losing ball club because there's competition for each of those spots. Isaac Stevens says in the chat, should players like Bernabel, Romo, Yankiel, Amador get playing time next year without having a defining plus MLB tool that positively impacts the team? I don't want to sit there and say that the Rockies don't have any other options, but I do think there is something to be said about allowing these guys to at least show you for certain. And each of these players is on a different time scale, right? Romo, I think, has a much shorter leash long-term than your Bernabel and Yankiel. Amador also has a pretty short leash, but I still think you need to give them a chance to come into that. There's a great documentary, I think it was the Boston Red Sox documentary that just came out on Netflix. What was it? The Comeback or something like that?
Oh, yeah.
On Netflix that I watched. And I had forgotten how subpar David Ortiz was when he first started out with the Red Sox. If you go back and look at David Ortiz when he first became a Red Sox, he felt like Yanquiel Fernandez. And I'm not saying that those two are going to have the same trajectory by any means, but he had like, you knew the power was there, but his bat to ball skills wasn't very high. He kind of was all over the place. He struck out a lot. And he ended up kind of getting sent back down and having to kind of go through this whole, I don't know, revitalize his career moment. And the Red Sox stuck with him long enough where he was able to build those tools to become the Hall of Fame player that he is. So again, I'm not saying that Yanquiel or Romo or Bernabel or Amador are going to take a path like that, but I do think you need to let them kind of see over the next, I don't know, year and a half to see if they have enough time to kind of develop into that. If they don't, if next year comes around and Romo still is not, his bat still hasn't come around, or Adael, same thing, then you cut ties and you move on. And I think this is going to be an interesting offseason also to see if guys get traded, see if Zach Veen ends up on a different team. Like there's a lot of offseason conversation about the minors specifically that we can talk about as this offseason picks up here in a few weeks, which is crazy to think about. But we got to take our first break of the show. After the break, though, we have not reacted to the fact that the Rockies, I don't know if you could call it a fight, but the bench is cleared. Rockies got into a bit of a scuffle over the last couple days with the Giants, and we got to react to that. And who is the next Rockies villain, as Luke says? We'll talk about that coming up next on the DNVR Rockies podcast. Well, I want to give some love to our friends right now over at Coors Light, because Coors Light is the official light beer of DNVR. And if you're heading over to the ballpark today, like I am, although I will not be able to drink because I'll be working, but if you are going out there to the ballpark to enjoy these last few days of baseball, you gotta grab yourself some nice, refreshing Coors Light. It doesn't, you can't go wrong. There's no better combination between baseball and Coors Light. But either way, whether you're going to baseball games or maybe you're getting tickets to go watch the Broncos on Sunday, Coors Light, there's no bad time to enjoy a nice, cold, refreshing Coors Light. I was sitting out on my porch last night, just drinking a Coors Light and just talking to my wife, just hanging out. I mean, it's a good vibe anytime you enjoy that Coors Light. So make the most out of the times you choose to chill. Choose Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instant Cart by going to CoorsLight.com/DNVR. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company in Golden, Colorado. Also want to give some love to our friends over at Toyota. Toyota is the official vehicle of DNVR. And I told you guys on the last show, I'm in the process of getting a brand new Toyota that I am so stoked about. Very, very excited. It's close. We're just, finalizing the last few bits of the title and the deal and all of that kind of stuff. And then I'm going to get to start driving that thing around. A nice 2024 Toyota RAV4, which is perfect. Exactly what I'm looking for, especially because I'm still doing a lot of outdoor stuff. I was fishing yesterday on the Rockies off day. I was up in the mountains. I'm hoping to get back up in the mountains in the next couple weeks. I'm going to be doing some hunting out in November, and you got to have a vehicle that can take you to all the places you want to go. Not only does Toyota have options of cars that have great gas mileage, hybrids if you want to go the electric vehicle route, but they've got vehicles that can handle any of the roads that Colorado throw at you, whether it's raining, snowing, off-roading, whatever that is. Toyota has vehicles that are made to withstand any of those circumstances and those environments. So visit your Front Range Toyota stores at a location near you. AutoNation Toyota, Arapahoe in Centennial, Corwin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson's Toyota East in Aurora, and Stevenson's Toyota West in Lakewood. Toyota is the official vehicle of DNVR. Welcome back to the DNVR Rockies podcast. I want to respond real quick because I do see, Luke says we have so many wait and see guys. I actually had this written down as one of my points from our last segment. I'm with you guys. I am tired of moral victories. We talked on our last show about, growing pains. And I talked about how sick I am of hearing after, the Rockies lose 6-1. Well, that's part of the growing pains. These guys just need to learn how to hit in the big leagues and whatever. I do think there's some truth to that. I do think you have to have a balance when you're calling up these 22-year-olds who have never been in a big league roster and they're getting their first shot and they're on a team full of guys that are not playing good baseball right now. You've got to kind of allow them to grow and go through those growing pains. But at the same time, I do think the Rockies organizationally do not do a good job of being aggressive. We've griped about it. So many trade deadlines, so many free agencies, off seasons, all of that kind of stuff of like, do more. Like, show us that you're trying to win. You keep saying, hey, the Momforts go out and, do an interview and they say, well, we want to win just like everyone else. Okay, well, show us, right? So I'm not letting them off the hook. I think there's got to be a middle where, yes, some of these guys you do have to wait and see. You've got to allow them to grow and develop. But at the same time, you still need to be building a team that is going to be competitive. And Rockies fans, myself included, do not want to wait around another 6 more years and have the same conversation of, well, we just need to keep growing. We need to keep letting them see. Maybe it's just still growing pains. I like that they sent Michael Toglia down. That was a decision that I think under Bud Black or maybe former management or something like that, that was a decision that needed to be made because we had been waiting and seeing for too long with Michael Toglia. So I totally agree with what you guys are saying, both you, Isaac and Luke. I just think there's got to be some middle in here because those guys still need to grow, but at the same time, the organization needs to be a lot more aggressive in how you balance out those players who are developing at the same time.
Yeah, and you're in a constant holding pattern of wait and see, and then the Toglia send down was a good kind of finality to it. But at the same time, I know in the back of my head, I'm like, what if he has a really good September? And what if he has, he comes back to spring training and he's fixed some of his, so it's maybe just that we're all so brainwashed by these prospects because I feel like every prospect the Rockies have had, Adael Amador is the one that comes to mind where he came up and was bad enough to where he didn't warrant staying up.
Yeah.
And, too early or not good enough is kind of, it's still up in the air. I mean, it's just an opinion at this point.
Yeah, I think you can say he's probably not good enough at this point.
And that's a fair statement. But every other Rocky has, in recency bias, but in the last year has come up. Bernabel was tearing it up. Karros was doing really good. Ritter was electric on the base paths, getting a base hit triple in his first game. There was signs that we thought we didn't have to wait anymore, and we were doing the seeing part of that. Mm-hmm. And then we just get into the cycle of okay, well, maybe we'll have to do that again next year. And that's where we've been for 3 straight years now. And it's there's still no finality. And when we do our season recap show, I'll be curious if, these last 2 weeks are just when we take a step back from the whole season and look at it as a whole and look at it as not the team success, because there isn't any or very little, but individual player success. I wonder if we're going to look at 2025 and say, oh, Jordan Beck is definitely your starting left fielder. Mm-hmm. I'm leaning that way, but you never know.
Yeah.
And Brenton Doyle is definitely your starting center fielder next year. And Ezekiel Tovar is definitely your starting shortstop. And we can say with some serious finality, Hunter Goodman's the best catcher you have. He's the best offensive catcher, one of the best in the league. And then you've got Braxton Fulford, who will allow you to not have to sign any vets going into next year. And you start with a younger battery position, at least at the catcher position. But everywhere else is still a question mark in terms of you've got players where you kind of know what they are in the league, and the Mickey Moniaks, the Tyler Freemans, the Kyle Farmers, whether good or not, you know what they are. And then you've got a lot of guys that you still don't know who they are, but you have to make those pieces fit together. And not that the Rockies are going to win 81 games next year, but their next year has to have a more focused idea on these younger players and figuring out whether or not they're actually good enough to stop, because we could be kicking this can down the road for 5 more years.
Sure. Oh, and we have been for the last 6 years.
Right, exactly. And so it's already gone on long enough to where I feel like we need some finality on a few guys. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying we will get that, but I do believe there's going to be 4 to 5 position players at the, our season recap show, and we'll obviously do off-season shows, but season recap show, and we look back at this year and how bad it was, we can find some individual performances and individual seasons where we can say, all right, you've added another piece to the puzzle. There's still a lot missing.
Check the box.
There's a few boxes that we have checked going into next year versus just being we got 2 good players and a bunch of young guys, and then we need to sign some vets that take their playing time. I need some more from them from this September.
Oh, well, and I've made this point all the time on this show. There is a difference between just being a big league player. The Rockies have very good baseball players. They're professional baseball players, right? But there's a difference between being a good baseball player and being a playoff caliber baseball player. The Rockies have good baseball players. They, every single player on the Rockies was the best player at their high school, the best player in their college, the best player in minor leagues. But then you get to the big leagues and you need to show me that you are able to compete at the level of the Dodgers, the Phillies, the Cubs, insert good team here. So yes, there are some guys who have promise that you look at and you're like, hey, there's some good stuff to talk about here. But that still doesn't mean that the Rockies are a playoff team. And I really like Luke's most recent comment. Luke says, what's the quantity and metric you guys want to see before we start making decisions on some of these guys? 1 season, 100 games, 300 at-bats, more? It's a great question. I don't think it has to be a metric from a game, season, at-bats, that kind of thing. For me, the metric on whether or not a player is someone that you should keep taking risks on, that you should keep giving at-bats to, keep giving starts to, whatever, can that player make adjustments? Has that player shown that he is able to make the adjustments needed to go from where he's at today to a better place tomorrow and a better place the next day, and so on and so forth, until they are the person that you expect them to be? The example that I'll use for this is Brenton Doyle. When Brenton Doyle was called up to the Colorado Rockies, we all knew he had elite defense, but his bat was subpar, if we're being completely honest. It was average at best, subpar for the most part. And Brenton Doyle came up, his defense was elite, his bat kind of struggled at first, and then year over year, month over month, he's started to make the adjustments to become a legitimate big league offensive player you could put him on a playoff team. You could put him on insert X playoff team, and he would be starting. He would be starting offensively, and he would be starting defensively. Now, yes, he had that huge slump in the middle of the season, which we were all very concerned about. But at the same time, he's come out of that and now, again, become one of the best hitters in the National League since he's kind of got himself out of that slump. His hit tools are there. He's a guy who's been in our circle of trust for the last couple weeks. So that's kind of where I look at is, can we see a guy making the adjustments as his years go on to where now in his third season or second or third season with the Rockies, he's kind of at his peak, which is where I feel Doyle is. If he's continues to hit the way he's hitting and he's playing defense the way he's playing, he's at his peak where a good playoff team, he'd still be starting. I need to see that from the other guys. Michael Toglia showed us that he could not make the adjustment and he got sent down. That's the type of metric I want to look at right now. Can we see Kyle Karros getting into his power a little bit more? Yankiel, strikeouts go down, on-base percentage goes up, plus power continues to go up. Like you can look at those kind of things and say, if those guys are making adjustments and improving on that, then you keep giving them at-bats, keep giving them game time.
Yeah, and I think one of the interesting things about kind of what you just talked about and the Rockies prospects and players that are here, in the system, but also kind of at the major league level right now is, with Brenton Doyle specifically, he was so elite at one thing that you had to keep him in the lineup. And you had to let him either try to work through his bad at-bats and his slumps or not. But his defense is so elite that you're like, well, at worst, we have an 8th or 9th hitting center fielder that's playing elite defense at Coors Field that you need. And none of these other guys, at least in the small sample size that we've seen, don't have a trait like that. They don't have a trait where you see it's elite and then you fix their other problems. They have one thing that they can stand on. The other guys don't have a lot of legs to stand on because they're kind of just mid at everything. So they need to show you that they have one tool, whether it's their defense, whether it's their speed on the base paths, whether it's their ability to get on base and take pitches and take walks. Like, they need to have one elite skill that warrants them continuously being in the lineup, to where then you're forced to kind of play them, and then they either work through their slumps of bad, hitting, like whether it's hitting for average, hitting for power, whatever kind of their issue is. But Brenton Doyle was lucky, not lucky, he's a great center fielder, but he was lucky that he was so good at center field that you kind of you had to force your way through it. Like, Toglia wasn't a Gold Glove first baseman to where he's still up in the majors hitting probably what would be 180, 190, 200 probably, with a ton of strikeouts and leading the major leagues in strikeouts. So there's no elite skills from any of these other prospects / major league players that we've seen yet to warrant them getting enough playing time to fix their other problems.
And I think that's what Isaac was getting at, is that these guys, the Amadors, the Yankiels, Bernabels, don't have that elite tool, right? Bernabel went on a tear when he got called up, but he doesn't have that tool that's going to be the big thing that you keep looking at. Chase Dollander, for example, here's a perfect example. Chase Dollander has the tool. You look at his pitching stuff, throws a 100-mile-an-hour fastball, and he's got good off speed. He's missing the growth. He needs to be a wait and see, because you see what he's capable of doing when he's on, and you say, hey, we just need to develop that. The fact that the Rockies have 6+ players that are close to their 40-man roster, if not on their 40-man roster, that don't have that elite tool, that is a Rockies problem more than it is a player problem. And I've said it over and over. Amador is doing the best that he can with the ability that he has. He is only physically able to play at, a certain level of baseball. He is not going to ever be Shohei Ohtani, because that's just a very different ball player. Paul Skeens, you could make comparisons with pitching. Like, these guys are doing the best, these players are doing the best that they can with the physical skills and talents that they have inside their body. The rest of it is on the Rockies organization to draft, develop, trade, sign free agents, all of those things, which we know the Rockies are terrible at doing. So I do think there's two sides to it. Yeah, you got to kind of let some of those guys play out and see if it works. But at the same time, again, it goes back to this whole organizational thing. You have to be more aggressive, and we've been calling for that forever. Every Rockies fan alive has been calling for the organization to be more aggressive in how they approach things. But it's a deep conversation. I'm glad you guys brought it up, and I'm glad we got the chance to talk about it, because it's tough, and there's a lot of layers to it, and I'm sure it's not the last time we'll have this conversation. So we do have to take our second break. After the break, we will talk about the Rockies' little scuffle, their kerfluffle, as we like to call it, that happened over the weekend or over the last few days. And are the Giants the most hated team for Rockies fans in the NL? We'll talk about that coming up after the break. I want to give some love to our friends right now over at Bet365. We got Rockies baseball again today. If you use that code DNVR365 when you sign up, you can deposit $10. Choose between either a bet and get offer, maybe a first bet safety net offer. They also do the awesome MLB early payout offer, where if your team goes up by 5 runs or more, well, you get that payout no matter what the outcome of the game is. Anti-Rockies parlays feeling pretty good recently?
They have been okay. The Rockies are back to their strikeout ways, which is not a good feeling. Like every pitcher seems to have 6 strikeouts before the 4th inning even starts.
Yeah, it's not great.
Not that part is not great. But like tonight, Kyle Freeland back on the mound. We know I'm going to go back to the well, because I think our last pod was Kyle Freeland's start.
Yep, it was.
Going back to the well, just take the first inning run. Just take the other team, or just take run in the first inning.
Just hope it's not a home run.
Yeah. Easy bet, run in the first inning. Kyle Freeland will give that up. And then if he doesn't get a homer pimped on him, he won't get kicked out, and maybe he'll turn it around for the next 4 innings. But yeah, you just go with the Bet365 app and get to run. Yes, we call it a Yerfie in the betting world. Yerfie, yes, a run in the first inning for tonight's Rockies-Padres game. Love it.
Use that code DNVR365 when you sign up. See why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. And if you were heading out to the baseball park tonight, as I am, you got to use the Game Time app. That is the best place to get your tickets for any event, especially baseball, though. It's baseball season still. Come on, I know the Rockies suck, but it's still baseball season. It's still fun to go out there. The Rockies still have some firework nights coming up, and you got to use that that Game Time app when you get those MLB tickets, because Game Time app has so many cool features. They've got zone deals. They've got seat views, 360 degree view, panoramic seat views. Lowest price guarantee. They also cover your ticket with the Game Time ticket coverage. They've got the most incredible customer service policies and just the people that can help you get the tickets that you want, because it's complicated to get tickets sometimes. It can be a bit of a hassle, and when you're going out to the Rockies games, you shouldn't have to pay that much to go watch Rockies baseball. And with Game Time, you don't. So take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code DNVR for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use code DNVR to get $20 off. Tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. Are the San Francisco Giants the most hated team for Rockies fans in the National League West? I would have had the exact same argument that Mr. Purple has. Dodgers number 1, but going into this last week, I'm still getting hated on by Giants fans today. It's first of all, before we even get into the fan aspect of it, what do you think of what Kyle Freeland did? That whole situation. First of all, Rafael Devers pimps an eight pitch in, pimps a home run. I don't even think he pimped it that hard.
No,
he just kind of watched it.
Yeah, I didn't think it was that insane of a pimp job. Obviously, it's very much Kyle Freeland is frustrated. And
no, he didn't Jose Bautista, chuck his bat.
Right. Yeah. It was like a 6 out of 10 on the pimp scale, and Kyle thought it was a 10 out of 10 clearly.
Yes, he did.
But also, you just never know what he actually said to him. You can kind of tell by one of the angles after they replayed it. He said, "Effing run then." Like that, basically like get going.
You can see what Rafi said. I haven't seen a John Boy breakdown of it if he's going to do it, but Rafi basically was just saying over and over, STFU, STFU. If you're reading his lips, he's just yelling it over and over. Like that was the only thing he was saying. But I don't know what Freeland said.
Yeah, Freeland definitely said
run.
He's like, get
on your horse, bud.
Get circling around the bases. I think one of my takeaways from that benches clearing brawl, if you will, or whatever happened, is none of the Rockies really got as into it as the Giants. And that just kind of, that took me a ring down on the clubhouse bravado that this team has.
You're talking about like Rockies players?
Yeah, like Adames got kicked out of the game, and then who was the other guy that got
Matt
kicked?
Chapman.
Matt Chapman got kicked out of the game. Neither of them were part of the Devers Freeland argument, but they came so hot into the fight basically that they ended up getting kicked out of the game. You didn't see any Rockies doing that, and don't get me wrong. Is this like, do I need to see, is this like hockey where you're getting your ass kicked 10-1 and you need to just start throwing hands with everybody on the ice? No. But it would have been nice to see anybody random just come up and absolutely obliterate one of the Giants with a chair, with a fist, whatever.
If you watch the video, the replay, the guy who was the most intense, now he didn't throw any punches, but he was in there ripping guys apart. Yanquiel Fernandez was pissed, and he was in the middle, like just grabbing collars, just ripping people around. So I saw that. I actually put in our DNVR diehard Discord. I know Mr. Purple, you're in there. I know you saw this because we were talking about this, but I don't know if the Rockies as an organization, as a team, are a bunch of fighters. I would not trust the Rockies in a fight, in a team brawl against the Giants, let's just say. The Rockies don't have any feisty dudes. Put Zach Veen in there, I'm feeling a little more confident. You need some crazy psychos to just go hard in there. I think Yanquiel was kind of that guy. Like, I think Yanquiel was like, wanted to go ham, and everyone just kind of like held him back. He's also one of the bigger guys in that fray.
That's the guy I'd want.
But everyone else is like, just like nice. I mean, Tyler Freeman, who trucked a catcher the other day, by the way, incredible to see. Tyler Freeman's like the nicest person you'll ever meet, right? Like, Jordan Beck, although he can be a little intense, Jordan Beck's just this soft-spoken, kind of shy, like country boy, Seth Halverson. I was talking to Thomas Harding about this the other day because we were actually having this conversation, and I was like, I think Seth Halverson would hold his own in a fight. And Thomas, who knows Seth very well and does tons of interviews with Seth and stuff, Thomas is like, dude, no way. He's like, size-wise, sure. He's like, but that is the like most polite, soft-spoken. Like that guy's not gonna be throwing hands one bit. Vodnik would have been another good guy to see in there because he's just insane.
Yeah, we need to see some guys. We needed more guys with a screw loose.
Yeah.
We need like Jake Cave. Yeah, we need Jake Cave back.
Even Kyle Farmer, who people were saying, he's the Rockies like clubhouse guy. Like even he was just kind of like, hey guys, stop, hold them back. Stop fighting. So yeah, I was a little bummed too about the reaction to all of it. But
and what's the Rockies pitching coach's name? I'm blanking on it right now.
Dougie?
Daryl Scott.
Oh yeah,
Scott.
Doogie.
So Daryl Scott and Warren Schaefer are two of the most ripped human beings I've ever seen. How are they not in there throwing punches? You look like that. You fucking stand up when something happens.
Who's the Mike Schilt, the Padres manager who we're going to see tonight? Mike Schilt is the guy. I mean, he is not a fighter-looking guy at all. But I've seen him get into. I mean, him and Dave Roberts were going to like throw hands the other day when the Dodgers and Padres were playing. Like. Yeah, I agree. I wanted to see a little more out of Schaefer. And I also thought Schaefer, despite being a pretty well-spoken, kind of calm dude normally, I mean, we saw his elite ejection. I figured he had a little bit of a screw loose too, and like maybe we saw him getting in there. But manager, you got to be the cooler head. You got cooler heads have to prevail when you're a manager. But I was a little bummed by the reaction of the Rockies as well. I didn't think there was as much feistiness as there could have been. But going back to the initial situation, what happened? I had said this on Twitter, but I'd actually said it in a comment to someone because I was already getting just roasted by Giants fans. I don't have a problem with either side, the hitter or the pitcher. If a guy hits a 410-foot home run, I don't care. If you hit a home run, you are within your right to pimp it. I don't care. You hit the home run, right? You can admire it. You can walk around the bases. You can do whatever you want. That's your right. You just hit a home run. And I'm a former pitcher, so I get it as a pitcher. But I also am of the mindset of whether you hit a home run off me or not, if I'm the pitcher, I can chirp at you around the bases. I mean, and I posted on Twitter the video of Madison Bumgarner, Giants legend. Madison Bumgarner was a stud. But when he gave up a home run to Max Muncy that one time in San Francisco, and Muncy took a little too long to get around the bases, Bumgarner was chirping at Muncy. The benches didn't clear. No, I mean, Bumgarner had to be kind of held back by the ump. No one got ejected. Everyone's just chirping at each other, and we go about the rest of the game. That's what I would have rather seen. You hit a home run, pimp it, cool, you earned it. I'm also gonna talk some shit as you're running the bases because I'm trying to defend the mound here, right? So like either way, it's you can do both. I think both of them overreacted. I think Kyle got a little too hot and bothered about it, and I also think Rafi, like, I mean, he was just yelling too, but he stopped rounding the bases. Anytime you stop rounding the bases on a home run, benches are going to clear. Like, guys are coming out.
Yeah, and just
keep running.
The overall reaction to, it was a minor thing that caused this kerfuffle, if you will. But then nobody took it to a level where it would have been really fun, because they could have gotten into an all-out brawl where the Rockies finally just let their frustrations out of another 100-loss season, and that was loss 100, I believe.
It was loss 100, yeah.
So, like, they could have just let it all out there, and it would have been kind of electric. But it turned from a very mediocre reason for the brawl to a very mediocre brawl, if you even call it that, in itself, and it was just kind of all underwhelming for me.
So the NBC Bay Area, the Root Sports basically of San Francisco that does the TV games for the Giants, they posted, huge Rockies Giants brawl, and that was their like post of the video. I'm like, I don't think a single punch was thrown. I mean, there's a lot of pushing and shoving and yelling, but not a single punch was thrown. I mean, yes, the crowd part of it kind of got a little chaotic, but no one actually got hit. I mean, the worst of it was Matt Chapman blindsided pushing Kyle Freeland. It was a whole lot of nothing, in my opinion. But
and I wish we would have seen Senzatella come in and the next Devers at bat just go real high and tight. Yeah. I mean, he's making $12 million a year to be a long reliever.
I mean,
just go in there and send a message.
Senza's another one of those guys, though. I'm like, he's just too nice. He would never do something like that. We don't have a guy, again, besides Vodnik, maybe Agnos. Agnos probably would have done that. Jake Bird when he was still around, but the Rockies just don't have that dude who's gonna do that. But I tried to defend our honor on Twitter. I tried to, like I said, I posted that video of the Madison Bumgarner doing the exact same thing. I posted because Antonio Senzatella immediately after struck out Rafael Devers in his second at bat. And so there was some dude who was like, Rafael Devers is the greatest hitter on the planet. And then I posted the video of Senzatella striking out Devers. And I'm still getting roasted by Giants fans. And so I'm like, I'm doing my best. I'm trying to like maintain the Rockies' honor here. I got to say, it is so hard talking shit as a Rockies fan. I have no ground to stand on whatsoever. They're just sending me pictures of their World Series trophies, and I'm just like, yeah, cool.
No, you're in sinking sand trying to defend this team.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying to hold us up here.
But I will say the one frustrating part, going back to kind of the rankings of rivals and how we hate the teams in the NL West. Like, we're too low right now to be able to hate anyone, because we did hate the Padres at one point. That's when we beat them in the 07 wildcard game.
You can hate them, but they don't hate us.
The Diamondbacks, we lost in a playoff series. Like, we kind of hated them for a bit. The Dodgers, we competed with them and almost won a division title. Hated them then. And we've hated the Padres too. Like, or who's the team I'm missing? The Giants. We've hated the Giants too. I hate the Giants because of former Giant Mike Yastrzemski's wife one time told me to get out of her seats that were my seats in my stadium.
What?
Yeah, it was a why. I was like, and then Yastrzemski struck out, and I was just yelling for the Rockies, but right over her ear, and right behind home plate.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, she pissed me off so bad. So I hate the Giants for that reason. But the annoying part about the Giants this year is like they're doing the Dallas Cowboys thing, where if you talk shit to them, they're showing their World Series champions from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
That's irrelevant. You guys are not making the playoffs this year either. You guys have all these contracts and Chapman and Devers and all these great pitchers, and guess what? You're not even making the playoffs. So shut up. That's where I get annoyed by team. Like if the Cubs want to chirp us, fine. If the Dodgers want to chirp us and they have this great record, fine. Even the Padres, they're hopefully going to win this division and beat the Dodgers. Like, fine, chirp us. But don't chirp us when you're just a mediocre, middling 500 team. I don't want to hear it from those people.
I know. I was hoping that the Rockies would step up and like really, find some fire after that. And they didn't. They completely rolled over and lost the next 2 games. The Giants have owned the Colorado Rockies since 2021. The Giants are 56-18 against the Colorado Rockies, which is an insane stat. So yeah, the Rockies need to stop playing the Giants. We got to pause for a quick second. Pause right now. I have a video I want to show you guys, and we'll pull that up after the break. But Nolan Jones went out and did an interview talking about his trade situation and gave a pretty interesting story about that. So we'll pause. We'll touch on that when we come back. All right, welcome back here. Finishing up the show here, Dion. I sent you a tweet in our Rockies chat. If you want to pull that up here in just a second, I'll give you a moment because I know I'm blindsiding you with this a little bit, but. Rockies going to be playing the Padres tonight. Then they play the Dodgers. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as we get going. But I don't know if you knew this. Do you remember when Nolan Jones got traded? He was talking about his relationship with Tyler Freeman because I guess they used to be like best friends and stuff like that. Did you know all of that?
Yes, I did.
Dion, do you want to pull up this video if you've got it? This was from, I believe, Baseball Isn't Boring, a podcast. Baseball Isn't Boring. They did an interview with Nolan Jones, and he was talking about his time with the Rockies and how he found out he got traded. And I thought it was kind of interesting. So throw it up there. We'll see what he has to say.
Was really planning on having a bounce back season this year, and had plans obviously of it being in Colorado. And then 2 days before the season started, we had just shipped all of our stuff to Colorado that morning. Oh yeah, cars, everything to Colorado that morning. And I was heading out. I was getting dressed for our 1 o'clock spring training game, walking out in the tunnel, and the GM over there in Colorado stopped me and said, "Hey, go stop by Buddy's office." And they basically called me in and told me that I was being traded, but it was pending physicals, so they were unable to tell me where.
Really?
So I went about 4 hours. They told me to get your ass, pack up my stuff, and
you had no idea where you were going.
I had no idea where I was going for
you couldn't like back channel it or anything, or?
So actually, I called Sam Henches, who's one of my best friends here with Cleveland.
Yeah.
Was like, talked to him through the whole situation, whatever, and he didn't answer. So this was probably 2 hours after I got told. So I called Tyler Freeman.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Tyler was, basically in tears, upset, told me I got traded, but they can't tell me where because it's pending a physical. So upset, and I was like, well, I can, I think I know where you're going.
Really? Really?
So yeah, that's kind of how I found out.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, you called him?
Yep.
Wow.
That's kind of how I found out.
Wow, that's crazy.
That's wild. That's wild. Being a professional athlete is just insane to me. The idea of you just, you got all your shit packed up, you're, moving back to Colorado, and then you just get you get called into an office and they're like, yeah, hey, bud, we're actually going to move you to a completely different city, completely different state, but we're not going to tell you where you're going. You just need to chill for a bit.
Right. And at a time where that's not normal, like at the trade deadline, there's 50 to 60% of the league's probably like,
you're getting your affairs in order.
Yeah, exactly. But after you ship all your stuff to Colorado down from Arizona and you're like, oh, I'm going somewhere else and I don't have my stuff now. It needs to be shipped from there to there. And it's an insane scenario. And also the fact that it's with Tyler Freeman, who ended up picking up the phone, and they just swapped places. I mean, the Rockies did win that trade. Like it's kind of sad to hear it in that aspect where he's like, I wanted to have a bounce back season, kind of wanted to be in Colorado, whatever. And we thought he would, and we hoped that he would. But honestly, the Rockies made a good deal. And any one of those we're going to latch on to for a long time.
Dinger's Burner, I thought the exact same thing. Dinger's Burner says, love that Bill didn't even tell him, made Buddy tell him. I thought your job as the GM was to tell people that they're getting traded. I mean, Bud Black didn't trade Nolan Jones for Tyler Freeman. Bill Schmidt traded Nolan Jones for Tyler Freeman. So I don't know if there was more that he didn't say, like, maybe Bill Schmidt was in the meeting with Buddy or whatever, but the fact that he said it that way, where he was like, yeah, I ran into Bill in the hallway and he was like, hey, go see Buddy in his office. I thought the same thing. I'm like, that feels wrong. It feels more of like, hey, come see me in my office. I'm the GM. I'm going to tell you that you were traded. But yeah, it is. I mean, I feel bad for Nolan. Nolan's another one of those nice guys. Rockies have, God, so many nice guys that, great personalities, good people to talk to, but just not good baseball players. So we wish him the best. We're happy with Tyler Freeman as he is. And yeah, just thought that was kind of interesting. But all right, we got to preview this upcoming series. Rockies are facing the Padres starting tonight. I know because I know the Padres are this upcoming series, and then the Dodgers are the next series. We did see from our good friend Kevin Henry said Shohei Ohtani will likely get the start versus the Rockies on Monday, which is going to be fun to see. A known choke against the Rockies, Shohei Ohtani.
We don't have any more hair left, so don't get any ideas, chat.
No, dude, I wouldn't even make that bet against Shohei anymore. I mean, he looked terrible against the Rockies. Skeens, you could still say, okay, he's looked pretty. I mean, Shohei's had good moments, but he has not looked like the pitcher everyone expected him to be. So I wouldn't say I'm out on Shohei, but I'm not all in on Shohei like I am on, Skeens and Skubal and some of those other big time pitchers. But Padres coming up tonight. Do the Rockies get a win against the Padres over these next 3 games at home? Because they're playing terrible at Coors Field right now.
I was just looking at the probable starters. So we got K Free going tonight.
Let's go.
Against Nick Pivetta.
Sure. I mean, it's Pivetta, but Pivetta. I like the way you said it first.
And then tomorrow's starters are not announced, but Sunday will be Chase Dolander back at Coors Field, Yahoo, versus Dylan Cease. So my first inkling is that no, they don't win any of these 3 games. I mean, Pivetta's got a 2.8 ERA and has won 13 games this year. Their records of the starting pitchers tonight are 13-4 versus 3-14. Like, that's just not good. And we did mention, I mentioned this to, I said this on the show or off the show earlier, and then you mentioned the Tanner Gordon earlier in the show. I want to give my prediction that the Rockies' next 3 wins are all Tanner Gordon starts. He'll win his next 3 games, and then that 3rd start will be the day that history is not broken and the Rockies are not the worst team in MLB history.
If that is true,
on the back of Tanner Gordon.
If that is true, that would mean that we would take at least 3 weeks or 2.5 weeks, Gordon, give or take, because you pitch every 5 days.
Yeah. So his next start, because he won the Cubs game, he didn't win it. The Rockies won it. He should have won it, but the bullpen blew it. Shocker. And then he'll probably start. If he started the Cubs game on, what was that? Saturday. He's probably starting tomorrow.
He probably is starting tomorrow. So that's my thought when you said TBA.
He starts tomorrow, and then next Thursday, which is the 11th, and then maybe the 6th. I think Scott said his prediction was the 17th. I think maybe the 16th, 17th, depending upon off days and who's starting. Tanner Gordon's just going to go dub, 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 and then we're going to have the record. Or not have the record, I should say.
That would be the most Rockies way to do to
He's over 500.
No,
as
I mean,
a starter, which is insane. Looking at,
he looks good.
If you look at every Rockies starter, it's like 2-10, 2-12, 3-14. Like, it's unbelievable. The Rocky. So Sunday and next Friday for Gordon, which my app says Sunday is Dolander, so maybe that's Saturday. But yeah, I mean, he has become the stopper.
Yeah, he is. He's the Rockies' only stopgap. He is the only guy that you put out there, and you're like, maybe. Maybe they. I still have that feeling about Chase because Chase is just, his stuff is so good that I'm like, if he's just on one day, if Chase is hitting his spots, he's not falling off the mound, his front side isn't pulling open, I feel like he's unhittable. He's Paul Skeens. He throws the same type of pitches. It's just he doesn't have the same location and command that Paul Skeens does. And so I still feel like Chase could have a game where you're like, oh my God, he's got a one hitter into the 6th inning, But He hasn't shown us that.
And I feel like Kyle's does good enough damage control after his awful first innings to where he could go 5 or 6 tonight and give up 3 runs. It's just a matter of if the Rockies offense is alive early enough to make the game interesting into the 6th versus being 5 or 6 to nothing.
Yeah.
And they don't score any runs for the first 6 innings. And then you get a little bit of Lodo magic late. You get the bases loaded or something exciting and you get a little bit excited for it, and then it's a letdown. But I am going to the game tonight.
Oh, you
Use
are?
the Game Time app, me and my family.
Nice. I'll be there too.
Ever
So
since
Mr. Purple.
ever since my last game that my son went to, he just every morning he wake up, Rockies game back, Sawyer. And
Nice.
so I'm like, okay, we'll take
it's
you
like
again.
Morse code,
Yeah.
dude. It's just like one word at a time.
Yeah, and every day he wakes up, he wants to watch the Rockies at 7 a.m. And I'm like, Rockies play at night, dude. We have to tell him that for a week. So finally he woke up today and he's like, Rockies? And he goes, no, Rockies night. Rockies night.
Nice.
So he's starting to get that they play at night most of the time. You know, they have their day games. But I'm like, we're going to the Rockies game tonight. And I said bye to him when I dropped him off. And he goes, bye-bye, see you. Rockies game night. And I was like, yes, I got him.
We're so back. We're so back. Well, hopefully it's good. Hopefully the Rockies show out for your boy and for me and for Mr. Purple and all the others that are going to be going to the game tonight, because I will also be at the game and it will be hopefully a fun one.
Do you think we see Romo this series?
Yeah, probably. I think we'll see him, but not. I don't think he'll be starting. I think it'll be a like Rockies down 6-1 pinch hit. You know, get him an at bat and stays in the game. Could see it beyond that, but I don't think we'll see Romo starting at all. At least not anytime soon. So I think it'll be a substitution situation. But I don't know. We'll see. I'm curious to see what some of these young guys do. These next couple weeks are really going to make or break how this offseason feels for us.
Yeah. Well, and one thing we talked about it a little at length earlier, but this September is you really have to. We want the 3 wins. That's clear. Everybody in the chat wants the 3 wins. Thumbs up if you want 3 wins. We'd appreciate that. But the wins and losses really, as much as I will crash out over some losses, they don't matter, because a lot of what we're seeing right now and the Rockies actually trying to compete in baseball games is their starting pitching is so bad that it doesn't matter if their offense scores 4 runs, 5 runs, or like when you're going into the 6th inning and you're down 8-2.
Yeah, you're handicapped from
those
the first
at-bats
inning.
are not like as good as if you're down 3-2 and you're trying to manufacture a run and single, bunt over, steal a base. Like those little things are just out the window when you're down 8 or 9-2 in the 5th inning. So that's what I'm trying to compartmentalize right now and remove the wins and losses. Like, yes, it will be nice to see some good wins and losses, but there have been so many good individual offensive performances these last 10 days that I'm trying to latch onto those, having my purple glasses on, and see those for what they are versus the team record. Because when your starters are this bad, it doesn't matter if your bullpen's shut down and your hitter, even if you're getting 6-7 runs a game, that's not enough for most of these nights that their starters are so bad. So It's really one part of, and earlier in the year it was the offense. So I'm not singling out the starters now. I mean, I am, but it's been the whole team. It's been one part of the team. Your little meme of turn this on, this turns off. Like that's the Rockies. But right now the starting pitching is so bad that and alone in itself takes the wins and losses out of it. And just is like, all right, let's see a good night from Doyle. Let's see a big hit. Like last night or the last game they played, when they were ahead 5-4, which was very quick once Luis Peralta.
30 seconds, yeah.
Once Peralta came in, all 5 of those runs were with 2 outs.
Yep.
I don't know. You'd have to be hard-pressed to find 5 runs with 2 outs in the last probably 10 to 20 games from this team. So like things like that, they just got some hits. They strung them together. They took a lead. Like those things are exciting in the moment. The bullpen blowing it and losing the game, not fun. But those things are fun. Yeah. There's moments, but we got to wrap things up here on the show. We are at the hour mark. We'll be back next week at our normal times. Actually, we kind of almost had our normal times this week, Monday and Friday at noon for show times for the remainder of the season. And hopefully we have some good baseball to talk about because the Rockies are playing the Padres. Hopefully we're down to 2.
Hopefully we're down to 2.
Get down to 2 by Monday.
It would be huge because the Padres are also up on the Dodgers right now in the NL West. So big games at Coors Field over the next 3 days. We're excited to bring you all the action. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. We will see you guys next time. This has been the DNVR Rockies podcast presented by Bet365.
We all silly like the mayor.